What's up, Night Owl? Steely here, back with another Candlekeep guide, and today we're going to be looking at Chapter 3, Book of the Raven. As always, we've got a brand new map for you for this chapter, so you don't have to use the one that's in the book, and that will be in the Discord, link in the description. Set your role as Dungeon Master and go to the Dungeon Master Resources section of the Discord, and the map will be there. And if you want to see how I personally run each of these chapters, or if you have any questions, or you want to see corrections or mistakes that I make, I do stream these games on Twitch. Link will be down there in the description. The premise of this chapter is that a group of were-ravens have taken up residence in a house that used to belong to a noble family before they passed away. The house is in very close proximity to a shadow crossing, which is a gateway to the Shadowfell. The spirit of a 9-year-old little girl that was a member of the noble family that owned the house brings this book with a map leading to the house to Candlekeep. Now, you can either have this book in Candlekeep's library and the party stumbles across it while doing research, or you can have the spirit of the little girl in the form of a raven deliver the book directly to them. The little girl wants to scare away the were-ravens that are currently occupying her former home. One thing I want to mention, that when the raven drops off the journal, a party member may be able to speak with animals, whether they're a forest gnome or they're a druid with speak with animals or a ranger. One way or another, a party member may have the means to speak with animals. If that's the case, it's something you want to be ready for. The raven will reveal to the party that they are Haluth, the Brantafac's daughter, and they will ask specifically for the party to come and help her sister. And that's all the information that the little girl will give. Depending on their line of questioning, I just had the raven fly off. If they want more information, they're going to have to bite that plot hook and go to the house. Once your party has the book, they will find a map inside, and that map will lead them to the house with the promise of treasure. I had to make a lot of adjustments to this chapter in particular, more so than the previous chapters, because this chapter has a lot of loose ends that just kind of don't lead anywhere. And it mentions things like the Vistani and the Harn Mausoleum. There's a lot of things in this chapter that just don't really go anywhere. So I made an attempt to tie everything together. As far as a one-shot goes, I don't think this is a very good one-shot. There's just so much going on within this chapter that you couldn't, there's too many it raises too many questions. It could lead to another campaign 100%, and it could take place within a Barovian campaign as sort of a side quest, absolutely. But running this as a one-off or connecting it to the Candlekeep campaign as a whole, I'm going to make some adjustments, and I'll make note of those adjustments in this video. Now, the first big adjustment that I made to this chapter is the book that the Raven delivers, the Book of the Raven itself. This book is a first-hand account of an unnamed traveler who fell off of their horse and broke their leg and was then rescued by a group of Vistani. The book provides a great deal of lore about the Vistani because the author broke their leg and was stuck in the back of a wagon while they traveled the whole time. So all they did was write this journal while they were back there for 3 months. So if you decide to sit down, or if a party member decides to sit down and read this book, they're going to learn a lot about Vistani lore. And the book will give you some bullets to go over about Vistani. So this was the first big change that I made. I changed this book entirely. If you want the Vistani to appear later on in your campaign, or even in this particular chapter or in your one shot or whatever, if the Vistani are going to come up later, you could keep this book the way it is, and your party could learn about the Vistani, and then they'll come up later. Or if you just want to have them, if you're running a Barovian campaign or anything like that, and you just like the Vistani, you can put them in there. I personally changed this journal and made it about the noble house that the party is going to be visiting. More specifically, I made this the journal of Haluth, the little girl who is now the spirit of the raven. So the raven is delivering the party her journal so that they can learn more about the noble family and more reason to go to the house. The reason that the raven delivered this book to the party with the map inside is because they want the party to go to the house, her house, and save her sister's soul. She doesn't care about the were-ravens that are squatting at her house. She wants the party to go to the house and save her sister's soul. More on that later, but that's the big change that I made, is that this journal belongs to the raven that is the little girl, and she is bringing the party her journal so that they'll investigate. The next big change that I made to this chapter is this map. Now, this map has several locations, and it provides sort of a path to the house. The problem is that none of these locations are really keyed within the module. You kind of have to come up with your own things within the map and your own locations, and maybe even your own battle maps if you want to have a combat there. The big reason that I scrapped this map is because the house itself and the Shadowfell within this chapter take up enough time. As far as 4-hour sessions go, I've run this chapter 3 times so far, and all 3 have gone over the 4-hour mark without this map. If you add this map, I would recommend having this map be its own game session. So if you want to extend Book of the Raven to 2 sessions, you could have one session be the journey, and you could build upon this map, and then the second session be at the house and the Shadowfell. And that would be one way to go about doing this chapter if you want. But if you want this chapter to be one 4-hour session, cut this map out and just say that you found a map to the house and they followed the map, and maybe throw a random encounter in there, or an encounter on the way to the house. Now, just for clarity, I don't have a problem with this map. I'm not criticizing it. I only cut it because of time and because the book didn't provide any details on the locations. The book even tells you fill these in however you see fit. Fill in this journey however you want. You can add encounters that are level appropriate if your party wants combat, things like that. That is entirely up to you as the DM. I don't have any suggestions for you about this map because I think that this chapter is well enough without it. It's full enough and eventful enough without it, and there's no real story here unless you create one. So I cut the map out entirely, and I recommend that you do the same. If you want to use this map again, you can make this chapter a 2-session chapter and do an entire session on this map. You know, the more I think about it, I kind of want to make a video on this map and actually come up with an adventure for each of these locations leading up to Chalet. This could actually be a really good game session. It's going to be more work on your part, which is why I'm here. So I'll see if I can come up with some ideas for locations and NPCs on this map and kind of give them to you guys. I may do a video on this map on its own, depending on how busy I am with the current Candlekeep content. So be on the lookout for that. I may come up with a video. If you're interested in a video on this map and you want to run this adventure and maybe have a 2-session Book of the Raven, let me know in the comments down below. Once your party arrives at Chalet Brantifax, I personally recommend that you give them a combat. Up to this point, the groups that I ran, the parties had encountered the Raven, roleplayed with it. They had the journal, they read through it, they found the map, they went on the adventure all the way to the house, and then they arrived at the house. If you didn't have a combat on the way to the house, now would be a good time. The graveyard is a great location for this. What I personally did was I put the Scarecrow and the 2 Crawling Claws that are normally buried in Selfine's grave outside the grave, guarding the graveyard, and when the party approaches, the Scarecrow attacks. By the book, the Scarecrow and the 2 Crawling Claws are buried where Sylphine was. They were put there by a green hag who stole Sylphine's remains. I tied in Sylphine's remains more to the chapter rather than have this random hag steal them and then disappear. And I'll cover that more in a moment. Also, when my parties arrived at this house, I made it at night and they could see light coming in through the top floor. This sort of gives the party the option of whether or not they want to burst in and start combat with whoever's in there, stealth and be sneaky to try to avoid whatever's in there, and just add that sort of air of mystery. Now, obviously, that light that I put up there in the 3rd floor are the were-ravens that are currently occupying the house. But the party won't know that unless they investigate. They have the opportunity. They know somebody is in the house, and then that gives them options on how they want to approach. So when the party arrives, it's at night. They see the light. They can make decisions from there. And if anybody wanders toward that graveyard, Scarecrow attack. So with all of that out of the way, let's have a look at this Chalet Brantifax map. Area 1 is the storage cellar. As the party makes their way down here, the door leading to Area 3 will swing open and the party will hear whispers coming from that direction. With a 14 passive perception, a character will be able to hear the words, "I can't get out." The crates and barrels here are empty and the furniture is old and covered in cobwebs and dust. Area 2 is the servants' quarters. The door frame to this room is swollen, so the door is stuck and it requires a DC 13 strength check to get through. The wardrobes in this room are empty and anything of value in this room was removed long ago. I added a servant's journal to this room to kind of give the party a little more information about the family that lived here. I also tucked away a spell scroll of a 3rd level spell in the back of the journal. So one thing that I did with this house is that I added several journals. One for the servants, and I put the servant's journal inside the servants' quarters. I added a journal that was written by Baron Brantifax himself, and I put that journal in the den. And then the book has its own version of the Baroness's journal, which is in the study. I left that as it is. The reason that I added extra journals is because I wanted to provide more information to the party, because this house has a really good story to it, but there's not a whole lot of means to provide that story to the party. They sort of have to guess based off the context clues And I would rather just sort of spell it out for them. Like they find the servant's journal. And what I put in the servant's journal is that the Baron suffered from bouts of sleepwalking after his dog died, and he sleptwalked into the well. So I gave the party details. Once they found the servant's journal, I told the party this is how the Baron died. He was sleepwalking after his dog died. He missed the dog, and that's why you hear the whispering. Come here, Brorn. This is the spirit of the Baron, and the party learns that through the servant's journal. I also had a journal by Baron in the den, and with that journal, I gave the party information about the Baron himself and his family. And it's here that you can provide information about the deformed daughter, Sophine, the tomboy daughter, Haluth, and the Baron himself and his relationship with the dog and the relationship with the Baroness. And just kind of briefly go over these things, why he comes to this house and details about his family, just little bits of information. Not necessarily like an exposition dump, just these little details to sort of flavor up and really sell this story to the party. Area 3 is the Haunted Well. This well is 60 feet deep and it requires a DC 11 athletics check to climb up and down. At the bottom of this well is a holy symbol of the god Sune, and inside it contains a portrait of the Baron's wife. The characters might recognize this portrait from the larger framed portrait in Area 17. If this locket is reunited with the Baron in the graveyard of Area 9, the Baron's spirit is laid to rest, and everyone responsible will gain a charm of heroism. After the death of his dog Brorn, the Baron started sleepwalking at night, and one of those nights he fell into this well and drowned. The haunting whispers of his spirit call out to his dog Brorn from the bottom of this well. Area 4 is the Cloakroom. Here we have iron hooks with a shovel and a rake hanging off of them, and there's also a dusty cloak draped over a hook next to the cellar door. One of the cloak's pockets contains a rusty iron key that unlocks the padlock in Area 16. Area 5 is the Den. There's nothing of particular value in this den, but I did add the Baron's journal here on the mantle of the fireplace. You can reach the second floor of this building by climbing the staircase here at the den and passing through the parlor, which is Area 8. Area 6 is the dining room, and here there's a circular table with 6 chairs around it that sort of theme the noble family's house. There's no signs of traffic or disturbances in this room, and a search yields nothing of value. Area 7 is the kitchen. Here the party will find a kitchen that is still clean and sees use. The were-ravens of the Scarlet Sash store rations and spices here in some of the pots and cauldrons to keep them away from the mice. Area 8 is the parlor. This parlor has some nice furniture, and there's a harp in the corner that is obviously valuable, but heavy and awkward to transport. If you present this harp to the party and tell them that it's valuable, they will probably want to take it with them. So keep that in mind, maybe a tensor floating disc, or have an athletics check to get it through a doorway. They may also try to shrink the harp in order to get it out, or stuff it in a bag of holding if your party has an artificer. I personally set this harp's value at 1,000 gold pieces, and if the party comes up with a clever way to get it out, that would be a great reward for them. But I required an athletics check to physically get it through the door and with a DC 15. And if they fail that check, the harp is ruined because they drop it or they bump it. Either way, it's up to you. Also, I made the harp too big to fit in the lip of a bag of holding. Those are some of the means that I've seen parties try to get this harp out, but your party may try something different. Make sure you reward creativity and set a reasonable price for this harp. Area 9 is the graveyard. It's here that the Baron, his 2 daughters, and his dog are buried. A hag stole Haluth's corpse a few years ago and replaced it with a scarecrow and 2 crawling claws. I personally put the scarecrow and claws outside of the grave, and they were guarding the graveyard when the party arrived, but that's up to you. Sylphine's grave is a shadow crossing and can be used to cross over into the Shadow Fell. Sylphine was one of the Baron's daughters, and she had hideous deformities, and it's hinted at in the Baroness's journal that she was killed by the Baroness. Area 10 is the guest room. There's nothing of value here. It's just covered in dust and cobwebs, and there's some furnishings like a moldy mattress and an empty dresser. Area 11 is the same thing except that the door is closed. I used Area 10 and 11 to kind of drop a few scrolls and potions for the party for the upcoming fight in the Shadowfell. Area 12 is the study, and it's here the party will find a locked desk and the key is missing. With thieves' tools, the lock can be picked, and inside the party will find the Baroness's journal. It's here the party will learn about the Baroness's relationship with the Baron, as well as her 2 daughters and the dog. Now, if you want to make the Baroness the big bad evil guy of this chapter, you can make her a little more villainous by playing up her jealousy towards Bjorn, the Baron's dog, and her hatred for Sylphine and her disfigured appearance. Either way, the party will learn of the Baroness here, and I want to make a special note that the Baroness does not show up in the graveyard. She doesn't have a grave in the graveyard, and the book doesn't say where she is at this moment, which is why I put her in the Shadowfell and made her the big villain. But you don't have to do something as cliche as that. You can put her wherever you like, maybe put her in town. It's entirely up to you. Area 13 is the master bedroom, and this is where the party will find the secret door leading to the Were-Raven's nest. With thieves' tools, a party member can open the door with a DC 15. As far as the Were-Ravens go, if the party hasn't been sneaky throughout the house, I had the Were-Ravens aware that the party was here and hanging out in the master bedroom outside of that secret door, waiting on the party to arrive. The door bursts open, revealing a middle-aged man with stubble for beard, long black hair, dressed in raven feathers around his shoulders and neck, and he's wielding a quarterstaff. The door bursts open. He looks at you. Fools! Have you no sense? This house is cursed. You will find no treasure here, adventurers. Leave. And from there, you can roleplay as the Were-Ravens, and you can do a history check on what a Were-Raven is, or whatever check you prefer, and fill in the party on the details. And the Were-Ravens can tell them why they're here, which is that they are collecting evil magic items and storing them here so they don't fall into the wrong hands. Also, the Were-Ravens are here keeping an eye on the Shadow Crossing so nobody stumbles into it or nothing evil comes out of there. However you want to spin that, the Were-Ravens are essentially gatekeepers for this Shadow Crossings. And so you can sell that to the party. The Were-Ravens will tell them that. You can have a nice little roleplay interaction. And depending on how the party approaches this, the Were-Ravens could tell them how to get to the Shadow Crossing, what they've been hoarding, maybe do some trade, or maybe just give them magic items in hopes that they'll go into, like if the party tells them that they're going to go into the Shadowfell and deal with the Baroness, the Were-Ravens may give them some loot in order to like wish them good luck. You could do that. You could do it that way. It's entirely up to you. But that's personally what I did with these Were-Ravens. I just had them watching over the Shadow Crossing and hoarding these evil magic items. And they're just kind of here for flavor. They don't tie up any loose ends. They provide the party the means to get to the Shadowfell, and they can exposition with the party some details about the noble house that you may have missed in the journals, and also a couple magic items. Area 14 is the Baron's Loft. This is where the Scarlet Sash gathers to hatch their secret plans. An explosion was triggered here, which resulted in a lot of damage to the staircase and the upper floor. And this happened from one of the Were-Ravens accidentally triggering the explosion from one of the Baron's alchemy labs. On the uppermost level of this tower, the party can find a small wooden chest with some of the Were-Raven's treasure inside. Now, I personally changed this treasure to be more useful for the upcoming fight in the Shadowfell. Adding things like a potion of haste or a scroll of summon elemental can be a huge buff to the party when they go into the Shadowfell. But by the book, this chest contains a potion of mind reading and 6 trinkets rolled on the trinket table in the player's handbook. Area 15 is the nursery. This room belonged to the daughters of Baron Brantifax, Haluth and Sylphine. There are several dolls on the shelf above the bed in this room, and if any of them are disturbed, the spirit of Sylphine manifests in the room and attacks. One of the details I added to this room is I made one of the dolls a talking doll, the magic item. And if a party member approached the doll, it said something to the effect of, "Put on your mask or mommy will get mad." This will sort of hint at the fact that her mother made her wear a mask when she went out in public, so that way people didn't have to see her hideous daughter, making her a little more villainous, and adding some sympathy to the ghost that's about to appear and attack. Area 16 is the attic, and it's here the party will find the trunk that can be opened with the key found in the cloak. They can also pick the lock with thieves' tools, DC 12. This trunk has a suit of studded leather, a heavy crossbow, some bolts, 2 hunting traps, and I added a cape of billowing. The wardrobes in this room contain clothing that the Scarlet Sash leaves here before taking Raven form. If a character searches the wardrobes, they'll find 5 black robes, 5 leather sandals, and 5 scarlet sashes. Area 17 is the storage attic. Here the party will find an unbroken mirror valued at 50 gold pieces, and they'll also find several framed canvases, including a family portrait of the Brantifax family. So a quick note on this shadow crossing. The book puts this shadow crossing here, but there's no real breadcrumbs leading into it. The party really has no reason to go here. There's no promise of treasure. There's no real story hooks. And once they get on the other side of the crossing, it's just this big combat with a bunch of ghouls and a wight. And the wight is a member of a Harn family that doesn't come up anywhere else in this chapter or in the campaign for that matter, but you could obviously improve upon that. What I did was I made the wight within the shadow crossing the Baroness, who was cursed after slaying her own daughter. And she ended up in the Shadowfell, and now she's got her horde of ghouls, and the party has to fight the Baroness in order to free the soul of the daughters and the husband. This actually gives your party a reason other than treasure to come here and do things and to actually venture into the Shadow Crossing, into the Shadowfell, and fight off this horde of undead before leaving. This is in my opinion, this is a great way to tie everything together and make this one cohesive story for the party to follow along and to take in. And it's a really good story that I feel like if you go by the book, a lot of things get missed and there's too many dead ends, and it's kind of messy, especially if you do this as a one shot. So that's how I sort of tie in things together. I made the Baroness the big villain. You have to cross into the Shadowfell in order to fight her, and doing so will free the souls of the daughters and the noble family. Crossing into the Shadowfell is no joke, and the book doesn't really give you a map to fight on. The map that they give is of the Harn Mausoleum, and I did remake that map, and I'll put it in the Discord for you to use, but I would definitely recommend going online and finding a nice sized graveyard map, because they're going to be fighting 12 ghouls, 2 gargoyles, a bunch of horses, and the wight. And there's a lot of things to fight here. And the map that they provide and the map that I made, unfortunately, are too small for this scaled fight. So there's bigger maps. I would get online, find a good creepy graveyard map, and fight on that one. Now, this fight is going to be difficult. No matter this is going to be a tough fight. 12 ghouls, a wight, 3 war horses, and 2 gargoyles, even in waves, is going to be incredibly challenging. I would tone down these ghouls to maybe 8 or 4 even, depending on the size of your party. Scrap the war horses entirely, depending on the size of the party, and provide lots of scrolls and potions. Provide temporary consumable magic items within the house before they cross over into the Shadowfell to get them ready for this incredibly difficult fight. And again, scale down the number of ghouls, maybe get rid of the horses, and just read into this fight, because this is going to be a really hard fight for your party. The module provides the party with a saddle of the cavalier and a ring of jumping if they overcome this incredibly challenging encounter. I personally added a scroll of raised dead to the party loot. That's a solid option. I always give that to my low level parties. And an uncommon or even rare magic item that's tailored for one of your party members, depending on who you have in the party. It could be a wand or some a really good cloak of protection, maybe, just depending on what's in your party and what they're after. Give them a really good magic item here, because this fight was very tough. Once your party finishes this fight, they're going to want to leave immediately. And if you want to kind of nudge them along to like get out of the Shadowfell, this is not a safe place to be. You could have them hear noises of things approaching and the noise is getting louder. So it kind of puts some push. And I personally put the loot within the mausoleum, and then they go inside the mausoleum, find the loot. And then when they leave the mausoleum, leaving the mausoleum was them crossing back over into the material plane. You can leave the grave as the shadow crossing. You could have the shadow crossing close on its own. Whatever gets the party back to the material plane, it's up to you. I just had them leaving the mausoleum. They cross back over into the material plane. And that's essentially quest complete. They can roleplay with the were-ravens. The were-ravens will be interested on what happened in the Shadowfell, what it was like over there. And they may take an interest in the party, and there could be NPCs that pop up later and lead to the next adventure. If you want, that's what the book recommends. But I think the next adventure already has a pretty good tie-in, but I'll cover that in the next video. So just to recap, the changes that I made to Chapter 3 in order to make Chapter 3 a bit more cohesive. The big bad villain is the Baroness, and she currently dwells on the other side of the Shadow Crossing in the Shadowfell doing nefarious deeds. She is the one responsible for killing the little girl Sylphine, her daughter, who was born with a deformity. The other daughter, Hayluth, has gone to the party in the form of a raven and dropped off her journal so the party can learn about the Brantifax home and go there and save her sister. Once the party arrives at the house, they'll find all the journals, they'll learn about the family, they'll learn about what happened to the Baron, the dog, the 2 daughters, and about the Baroness. The were-ravens will tell them about the Shadow Crossing, or a party member can pass a knowledge check or just know about Shadow Crossing. That's up to you. They'll cross into the Shadow Crossing, deal with the Baroness, and all the souls are put to rest. Happy ending. And that's it for Book of the Raven. I hope you enjoyed the video, and if you did, you know how YouTube works. Hit those buttons, leave a comment down below. Let me know what you did with this chapter down in the comments, and if you want to be a part of this D&D community, make sure you join the Discord, link in the description. Come by, ask questions, let me know what you think. And as always, I'll see you at sundown.